Hello, friends of Oak Hills. This is Pastor Dale with our weekly video Touchpoint. Today is Thursday, February 19, 2026. For our Points to Ponder article, this is titled, The Motive Must Be Love. Part of the fifth vow that PCA church members affirm is the promise to study the purity and peace of the church. A lot is packed into such a short phrase, like confronting sin, seeking reconciliation, yielding one's personal preferences to another, holding one another accountable, and so much more. If we ask ourselves why this is required of church members, we can start by affirming the glory of Christ, that it demands the purity and peace of his church. Christ laid down his life to purify the church and present her without blame. Christ prayed for the unity and peace of the church. We are commanded to be holy as God and Christ are holy. We are commanded to live at peace with others. Christ is glorified when we walk in a manner worthy of our calling by studying the peace and purity of the church. Without taking anything away from that high calling of the glory of Christ, I also want to assert that love for the other must be a driving motivation behind our efforts to study the purity and peace of the church. Pursuing the purity of the church without love is very dangerous and harmful and contrary to God's intentions. Some might say we live at a time when people are far too easily offended. And then, in response to offense, some believe they need to mete out justice on the offender. Some might even interpret Micah 6:8, where God makes known his will that we are to, quote unquote, do justice, as stating we should administer justice on evil and evildoers. But that is not our calling, nor our responsibility. And this attitude of revenge ignores the command of love. Let's consider Jesus' teaching in Matthew 18:15, a passage that addresses the purity of the church. Jesus says, If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault, between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. If we focus merely on the commands, go and tell him his fault, this might be interpreted as seeking revenge, or even that Jesus is calling us to punish and to make the other to feel ashamed for his fault. But we need to hear the command with the end goal that Jesus commends. He says there at the end of the verse, if he listens to you, you have gained your brother. That picture of gained or gaining a brother is a picture of reconciliation. A relationship that was once broken is once again restored to being a loving and caring, Christ honoring relationship. Jesus wants us to go and tell our brother his fault out of love because Jesus wants the relationship restored. Revenge or seeking to administer justice in our own eyes or punishing the other will never restore a relationship. Therefore, when confronting the sins of others, it is imperative that love for the other is one of our primary motives, the other being the glory of Christ, of course. Love changes the dynamics of the whole conversation. Let's also take into consideration Proverbs 10:12, which states, Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. The words strife and offense are synonyms in this verse. The verse embraces the reality that strife happens, offense happens. How they impact us and how we respond depends not on the nature of the offense or whether our offense happens, but on our own heart attitude toward the offender. If we respond out of hatred, we will only stir up more strife and burn the relationship. If we respond out of love, the relationship can be healed and restored. Daniel P. Miller has written a helpful little booklet for 9 marks titled, What If I've Been Hurt by My Church? Church hurt is real and can be deeply wounding. If we accept the biblical call to study the purity and peace of the church out of a motive of love, we will not allow church hurt to end relationships in the church. We will pursue reconciliation and forgiveness. Miller writes, striving for reconciliation with others demands that I love Jesus and his church more than I love nursing my sense of offense. Such love for Jesus flows from a spirit supplied appreciation that the Lord chose to pursue me, not withdraw, to engage me, not pout, to redeem me, not reject me. Zeal for Christ inspires us to follow in his steps, not hone the craft of erecting relational barriers. Close quote. I freely acknowledge that the fifth membership vow might cause hesitation for some people, but it embraces the biblical call to be in relationship with others in the church while lovingly maintaining those relationships. It's not always easy, but the grace of Christ will sustain us and even bless us as we seek to love his church and study the peace and purity of his church. A few highlights to draw your attention to this week here in February. This Sunday on February 22nd, I will conclude my series on membership. We're looking at that fifth and final vow, talking about submission to the government and studying the peace and purity of the church. I hope you can join us as we address these things as the Bible addresses them and commands them for us. I remind you of our missionaries of the month for February have been Quinn and Emily Sloan, serving with Reformed University Fellowship on the University of Kansas campus in Lawrence, Kansas. Pray for their outreach, their ministry with college students, that God would bless them, bless their fundraising on an ongoing basis, that they would have the funds needed to carry on that ministry. And a few events happening in the life of our church over the next few days and into a couple weeks from now. So tomorrow, Friday, February 20th, our seniors have their Jubilee luncheon at noon at the church. All seniors are welcome and encouraged to be a part of that. And then tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m., the women have a craft night at Emily Buck's home. So all the women are encouraged and welcome to come on out and share in their craft joys and fellowship with one another. This Sunday, following the worship service, we are hosting a Getting Acquainted with Oak Hills luncheon. This is open for anyone who is interested in learning more about our church, our history, our denomination, our doctrinal distinctives, why we do what we do. We'd love to share more about our church. And if you're interested in membership, this is part of that process of pursuing membership. We'd love to have you with us for lunch on Sunday. Please RSVP so that we have lunch prepared and planned for you. Unless I just want to highlight that our women have a retreat coming up in just a couple short weeks, March 5th through the 8th. The women are getting away down to Bentonville, Arkansas to Airbnb and enjoying a weekend away just for fellowship, spiritual enrichment, encouragement, and relationship building. It is a blessing to go and be part of a retreat like that. And I would encourage our women to make the time to go and join the other women on that retreat. Well, thank you for joining me this day for our weekly video Touchpoint. I look forward to being with you soon. God bless.